happens to all of us. Something just stops working. Maybe it's our job, maybe it's a system we're part of, maybe it's a relationship. And our first instinct is usually to jump straight in and start fixing it. But what if we are skipping the most important question? What changed? Because in a world that's constantly changing with new tools, new technologies, and new ways of thinking, things don't just break randomly. Something changed. And the ability to slow down long enough to ask that question, what changed, is one of the simplest and most powerful problem-solving tools we have. That's what makes the story from Sandy so fun. It's a small moment, but it reveals a way of thinking that applies to just about everything.
That's like exercising. Anything is, you have to get the mental muscles moving in a different way, and you have to be willing to feel stupid for a bit of time. And I think that's hard for any of us, is to admit you are inexperienced or don't know how to do things. I mean, like, fortunately, I've understood that I can't fix my heat and air conditioning, so I need to get a professional in. But it doesn't stop me from going, what does that do? What would happen if? Is it right that? And I had an experience a while back where I had an electrician here because my lights were flickering. And we concluded that the fuse panel needed to be replaced. It was 15 years old. It was really at its end of life. And so he did that, and we were chasing down. I had one light that continued to flicker. And he couldn't figure it out. He opened it up. He's in the ceiling. He's holding his phone up, looking in the rafters, trying to figure out what's wrong. And I said, so let's stop and go back. What changed? What changed from when you walked in that would suddenly cause that light to flicker when it hadn't been flickering before? And he went, I don't know. I can't, nothing. I haven't done anything. And I said, but didn't you adjust the light switch in the front room so that it didn't need the dimmer? You took the dimmer out? And he went, yes. And I said, is there? And he went, there's no way it's connected to this switch. And so I said, well, let's just look at it, because that's the only other thing that's changed. Like, what's different here? And he went back in and he opened up the light switch and he went, uh-huh. And he hooked up a wire inside and went back, lights no longer flickering. He said, I never would have looked at that. He said, I couldn't even imagine that switch being connected to one that's almost across the house from here. He said, who would have connected them up? And I went, I don't know, but I find that it always works. If we say, it wasn't broken before, it's broken now, what's changed? Whether it's relevant or not, asking that question has been a godsend for me throughout my career. Is something's changed? What's changed? What could change is probably the piece that I would have added in there for him. It's like, if you can't fix it, what are we going to do?
If you start asking that question, what changed, you'll start seeing things differently. It's a simple shift, but it's one that shows up everywhere. Sandy's stories are featured in Learn to Love the Roller Coaster. You can find out more about the book at learntolovetherollercoaster.com.